When I wrote this poem, I was in between a huge career change. And this was me navigating the fear of that next step. And then now in retrospect, I can see everything from that in between chapter was so beautiful of like dancing with the fear, really leading into my creative process. So now I look back and I was like, of course, I needed that time in order to arrive at this place right now.
Welcome to the Art to Heart podcast. My name is David Moore, and I'm a former corporate sales guy turned poet. And this is where we explore how finding your voice can help your path and your purpose find you. You know that feeling when you have a job that you're great at? One where you've been training and investing years of time and energy and lessons into building a career for the rest of your life. But then one day you realize that this job and the life you've earned doesn't actually fulfill you like you thought it would. But you've worked so hard for so long to get there, so you stay, hoping things will change. And then life starts to lose its color. The job loses its meaning, and overwhelm sets in as you realize, oh shit, I don't know what to do. I might be lost. How do you get back your color when you're stuck in the gray? If you've been listening, you know that my favorite answer to that is through art. Through finding your voice, expressing it, and embracing every step and misstep of your journey. Today, we're speaking to a dear friend of mine, Julianne Kanzaki, about the practical and very applicable steps she took when she realized her life was losing its color. We talk about exactly what she did to get more in touch with herself and her inner voice so that she could design a life and career using all of the parts that make up her essence. Julianne Kanzaki is an artist, registered dietitian, and health coach. She finds inspiration in early mornings, spending time in the redwoods, walking barefoot on the grass, in deep conversation. She is a lover of words, new trails, laughing, eating watermelon, and finding the extraordinary in the mundane. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area where she enjoys the perfect mixture of sunshine and fog. She is currently writing and illustrating her first book, Food for Thought, Simple Ways to Nourish Your Body and Soul, and her links are available in the show notes. All right, y'all, thank you so much for being here, and let's jump in. Just before recording this, I'll let you say the news. Actually, I don't want to spoil your news. But yeah, so go ahead.
I was telling David before we started that I just finished the last poem that will be part of my book, my first written and illustrated book. And I'm really excited for it to be birthed into the world soon.
Congratulations. What is this book about, Julianne?
It's called Food for Thought, and it's literally a culmination of everything that I love. So it is my food illustrations. It is some words of wisdom that I've learned in my own life, food puns, some nutrition tips for the food, ways to enjoy it, things to learn about the plant foods. And within each section are poems that I've written. So it's literally my love song to the world.
And you did the illustrations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think I could have written this or put it together a few years ago. So I think that's the journey, that everything that we have experienced and are learning over time, like it comes together, like all of these things talk to each other.
They talk to each other. Well, that's what they say. The best path to your purpose is like, what's something you can take from everything you've done, and
exactly.
What kind of puzzle does that make?
The portfolio lifestyle. For you, it's
the portfolio lifestyle. Is that the actual term? Or did you just come up with that?
I kind of just came up with it. I mean, my background was actually journalism communications. And then I went down this path of studying food and nutrition. And art has always been there, but it was only when I quit my hospital job that I had this time and this space for the art to come back. And that has also really informed the way that I coach, because it's including a lot of creativity. So I feel like now in my life, all of them talk to each other. They are like woven and fused together. And it's really neat to see that all of them can actually work together. It doesn't have to just be a single lane.
I love hearing that so much.
Yeah.
Because I think that's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out how all the pieces fit. And if you're listening, every piece of it matters, every part, even the wrong turns. There is no wrong turn. There's only detours.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, I think we all deserve to hear a beautiful poem by Julianne.
Sure. This one I actually wrote a while ago. This is one of my first spoken word poems. And I believe poetry is living and alive, and it will morph and change as we also morph and change. So through the years, I've added stanzas, I've taken things out. So this is actually a living piece. And knowing I was going to come onto your podcast, I actually added some stanzas that are a bit of a wink to you, David. So
thank you so much. I will take that wink.
Have you ever wished that you've already arrived? The dream career, the perfect partner, a place where everything's aligned. The grass is always greener on the other side. Society has us believing this lie. If we work hard enough, we'll be rich enough, then we'll be enough. So we glamorize the destination, anxious to arrive, when really it's the in-between that constitutes our lives. Life is an intricate dance between our goals and our journey to them. The steps we memorize, then improvise, and suddenly we realize that no one knows the steps or the route. Yet everyone pretends to have it all figured out. Mistakes can be a map, redirecting your path, allowing you to reiterate, recalculate, reconsider, and recalibrate until one day you're down a path you'd never thought to create. I was supposed to get married at 24 to a nice Christian Asian man that my parents adored. I was supposed to get married at 31, and when that imploded, I was broken and numb. And the one thing more crippling than a heart that's shattered is believing your voice and your story don't matter. See, my fairy tale story had been lost, but losing myself was a far greater cost. That's when my dad, a ceramicist, taught me the term kintsugi. It's a Japanese aesthetic that applies to you and me. It's found in the ceramic pot that's old, with a crack down its center and painting it gold. It's finding beauty in the imperfect and the cracked and the flawed. It's realizing your significance and that you were called, you were created for purpose, a magnificent design. So don't dim your light. It's time now to shine. You are no longer a prisoner to your past. You are free. You are free. You are free to create and write and dream and be in this world as only you know how. So when you're down on your knees, ask, is this a breakdown or a breakthrough? They are closer than they seem. A caterpillar has everything that it needs. As it dissolves inside the chrysalis and starts to build its wings, it must surrender to the process before it flies free. And when you're in the thick of it, it's difficult to see. But exactly where you are right now is where you're meant to be. Have you ever wished that you've already arrived? Well, you're here, right now, after all you've survived. You're here, right now, awake and alive.
That was incredible.
Thank you. It's really a testament to the in-between periods, the messy periods that actually are so important. And that's actually what makes up the journey.
I think it's a testament to recognizing the in-between, because we're always in the in-between, like we're always in the in-between. And so it's just knowing that it's worth it. Man, you shared so much of your life story in there as well. You got your dad in there.
Yeah.
Your marriage from 24, or from it not happening.
Yeah, engagement.
And then again, engagements. Yeah. So what is like your Well, first, I want to acknowledge that like all of this is coming together so beautifully for your book.
Mm.
And I know like the book isn't the end of your journey. It's not what it was just in between. It was maybe just for the next chapter, but that certainly is a culmination and a beginning at the same time.
And actually, like when I wrote this poem, I was like in between a huge career change. And this was like me navigating the fear of that next step. And then now in retrospect, it's been 4 years and I can see everything from that in between chapter was so beautiful of like dancing with the fear, really leading into my creative process. And it was during that time when that part of me was able to be expressed more fully. So now I look back and I was like, of course, like I needed that time in order to be and arrive at this place right now.
What was the impetus? What was like the catalyst for you to start jumping more into your art? And I also want to touch on when you were unhappy at work, because I feel like that's just so many people right now. What is the great resignation still going on? And not even the resignation, but people are learning more and more. Like, I'm not giving work one more minute than I have to. Like the people who would always go the extra 10 miles, I think are wising up a little bit. And so what were you doing at the time? And what was like the first domino to set you on this journey?
I truly believe that discontent is the portal to something new. And
if you listen
during that time, I had this metaphor, like all of us were born with this painter's palette, with all these different colors. And I was at the time working as a clinical dietitian in the hospital. And I really looked at that of what I could give in that role as like me painting with gray. And I was like, there's all these other colors I could contribute to the world. And for some people, that job is the perfect fit for them and they feel seen and it's their way to contribute. But for me personally, I knew that that wasn't my dharma, my purpose.
Mm.
And it was during this time of searching, I just knew I wasn't happy. I wasn't sure my next steps because that job is like, you had health insurance. Like I had been there for like 12 years. It was just like stable and comfortable. And
safe.
Safe, exactly. And I was taking a road trip up to Portland and I was listening at the time to a podcast and they had mentioned this project called the 100-Day Project. Are you familiar with that at all?
I think I heard it from you when we first met back in the day, but
so it's basically this one creative action that you will do daily, consistently for 100 days. And it could be anything. It could be writing a poem. It could be painting something, sketching. It could be doing a dance move, but it's just consistently for 100 days, you hanging out with your creativity. And I listened to this and I was like, this is what I need because my life was so dull and it was lacking so much zest and vitality of what my creativity was giving me. So
did you have any sense of creativity at that point?
It was very muted. I grew up as a very creative kid. Like we never had Nintendo. Like my mom would give us, like we painted, we made houses. Like I grew up in a very, like creativity was just a huge part of my life. But it was like in adulthood of like when you get the real job, that was kind of just pushed to the side. So I asked my friend to join me and it was helpful just to have another accountability buddy. And I chose to do 100 handmade cards because I have always loved cards. And I have like words of affirmation is my love language. So I asked people on Instagram, I was like, hey, I'm doing this project. If you want snail mail from me, like DM me your address. And I had a little running list and a lot of them I had never met in person. So I would just go to their account, kind of like look visually. This is like before Reels. It's just like photos.
Yeah.
So I could really get a sense of the energy of like what they like to do or like where they found joy. And then the task for me was looking at this blank card and just asking like, how can I speak encouragement or speak love into this person? So it became like a daily task of tuning in. And during that time in the hospital, was so, like my highlight, David, was going to the mailbox. I would walk across the street holding my little letter for that person and just the feeling of like opening up the little doorway and putting the letter in and like knowing like that feeling of like, I am contributing something good in this world felt so good. And to this day, people are like, I still have your card. Like I framed it. It's on my kitchen. And honestly, when I look back, the cards were not that good. And I think that's also something to think about is we don't have to be perfect when we start.
It's the intention.
Because as we keep going, we get a little bit better and it's like skill develops over time. But the thing is just to make and to have that intention of like, this is like, I made this for you and I hope you like it. And if not, that's okay because I had so much joy making it.
You know what?
At the end,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say at the end of that 100-day project, I got so good at like tuning into my intuition that it became blazingly clear I needed to leave my job. So that was the gift of that project.
I was going to say real quick, I think I had heard about this before because I remember telling you, oh yeah, I had the idea of writing like a poem for all of my friends' birthdays this year or something.
Yes.
I never did that, but yeah, now I'm wondering, I was like, wow, if I had done that when I wanted to, all those poems would be trash.
And it also showed me because we can't arrive 100% every day, but it's working through those days when you're unmotivated, when you are tired, when like the day has been insane and you're like, oh my God, I have my freaking project to do. But it's really the consistency of showing up. I feel like our creativity is like, oh, okay, so you're showing up. Huh. And it's like, show up. And after a while, the muse shows up too. But our job is to put our butt in a chair and to make. And it's not our job to judge it. It's just to make. And if we make enough bad things, pretty soon something good will kind of make its way out.
Yeah, pretty much. I've had page-long just trash poems, but the last line is gold.
Right.
Like, there it is. There it is.
And it's like moving through enough bad writing to like then get some of these threads of gold.
Yeah.
So that was really the portal and the catalyst that allowed me to be still enough to listen. And then really it was like fear setting of like, what's the worst possible outcome? And is that story true? Like maybe I wouldn't make a living and I would have to live with my parents. It's like, okay, once that's like out there, it's like, oh, that's not that bad. And then you could just leap. And then during that next time, it was just like building, trying new things and just being creative and being okay with failing because that's how we learn. It's like, I always look at like, it's not failing, it's just winning and learning. So life is an experiment. It's been
winning
really
and
fun.
Learning.
And I feel like in this pathway, I've been able to paint with these other colors that truly are me.
So you're living in the full palette now.
Trying my best.
I had a question and you answered it perfectly of what, like there's one thing of when you know that you're in a job and unhappy, but there's another to know what you want to strive for, because the moment you know what you want to strive for, it becomes that much more miserable. Right.
Mm-hmm.
How did your relationship to your intuition change from before the 100 days and after? And even during, if I'm sure that was a fun experience, even during, because one of the notes I wrote while you mentioned that is, it sounds like when you were looking at their profiles of something to write, unless you mentioned that in the technical difficulty episode, but of that kind of taught you how to, it grew your poet's eye. Mm-hmm. If you're just looking at them through pictures and finding a way to write about their lives in that way, or with their energy in mind.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between looking and seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And this process really taught me to see.
What is see and listen? Are those the same to you?
I think we need to be quiet enough to listen in order to see.
So they're closely related.
Yeah. Quiet. I'm an introvert, so I recharge and put all these things together and let them meld. And recently I've been experimenting with like early morning walks. And I actually have to say the poems in my book, for the most part, have been written barefoot walking in nature. Like, I feel like
Well, of
nature
course they
wrote
have.
this.
Of course they had.
And I experimented this past month waking up super early because it's quiet. It's still
How
kind of
early?
dark. I wake up at 5 and I start my walk at 6 because I start seeing patients at 8. So having that chunk of time, like in the morning, I don't bring it. So I have a few rules because I work really well with constraints. I don't bring my phone. I don't listen to music or podcasts. And I just walk and I kind of see movement for me as medicine. So a lot of the poems, like if I'm going to present or like perform, I have to do it when I'm walking because something about like getting it in my body with the rhythm. So sometimes I'll be walking and then like lines will drop in. I feel like it's kind of like capturing a lot of different disparate ideas in the walks. Sometimes I'll record on voice memos of like different lines that'll come through. And then when I get home, then I'll just type them out.
Mm.
And walking barefoot, I've been studying the benefits of earthing and grounding. There's like electromagnetic forces in the field, in the earth, like the earth surface. So walking barefoot on grass or sand actually helps heal the body. So in the morning, there's this beautiful grassy field. It's like dewy and wet, and it's really easy to walk on. And I walk and I watch the sunrise and like poems come. It's been such a gift. And I just realized it this month. I was like, this is something I want to keep. It's like my secret sauce.
Yeah. When COVID hit during furlough, I was on a 5 a.m. routine and it was so awesome. I was like, why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, I'm not working right now. I'm furloughed. That's for one, but you could do it anyway. But there is something about waking up when it's dark. Yes. When there's no one to distract you, even if you wanted there to be.
Yeah.
I just joined a 5 a.m. Have you read the book 5 a.m. Club?
I've heard about
by
it.
Robin Sharma. It's one of my favorite books. But a few friends of mine just started like an accountability group. They started waking up at 5 a.m. September 1st, and it's barely September 2nd. But yesterday I woke up at 5:30 because I went to bed late the night before. But today I woke up at 5:03 without an alarm.
Yeah. It's kind of like once our bodies find that rhythm, and then I'm tuckered out in the evening, and then getting morning light like just totally helps. So I feel like I'm on this cycle where it just feels really good. I'm like, I'm just going to roll with this. Like, why not?
What do you do before you go out for the walk? Do you meditate, or is that when you do your morning pages?
I do my morning pages first and then I meditate. My morning pages are non-negotiable. I think I've been doing them consistently since like 2014. And this is actually like how I got my idea for my private practice. I wrote, is there a way I can pair nutrition coaching with being in nature? And then I read that again and I was like, why can't I just build this out myself? Like,
and now you take your clients out on these beautiful hikes.
Yeah. And it's really fun to see what comes out through morning pages. It's just a brain dump, but I think having a safe space, I once heard that artists have something called back-turn paintings, where it's like a safe place for them that these art curators are not even able to like look at them. It's like real secret. And I think as artists, it's really helpful to have a place where it's just sacred and, no one's going to look at it and you can kind of just like explore and you don't have to worry about other eyes. And so that for me is like my morning pages of like, what am I feeling? And that's a way for me to tap into my intuition because it's me reading it also from an objective point of view of like, oh, sometimes I'll go back and I'll read. And I'm like, oh, that was the story I was telling myself. Like, how fascinating, it's just kind of cool to also to look back and with so much empathy of like, wow, I was so scared to do that. And like, look how it happened. And I started doing something called segment intentions. So
intentions.
Yeah. So I do my morning pages and then I do my gratitude, and the segment intention is kind of planning out like my dream day. And I started with the line, wouldn't it be wonderful if? Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if I got some clear downloads on my Rich Life walk in the morning? Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Those little Beach Boys spit up.
Like, wouldn't it be wonderful if I had really motivating, inspiring sessions with my clients? Wouldn't it be wonderful if I was able to create an illustration for my book? So it's kind of like me curating my ideal day before it starts in a very intentional like segments of the day. And then since I do my morning pages every day, the next day I look back and I'm like, did this happen? Like, yes, yes, yes. So no, like, but it's a way for me to really curate like how each day will be, because at the end of the day, it's like, that's a week and then a week is a year. So in a sense, it's like planning out your ideal
You're like
day, which
visualizing.
makes, yeah. And it's been helpful. I feel like in sport too, I always would harness like visualization, like pretending like the gun went off and like swimming and like imagining. So I was really into visualization, because then when you get into the actual race, your body's like, oh, cool, we know what to do. Like we know to stay calm. We know to have that like good swivel. Like we know how to have the breath be rhythmic. So in a sense, it's just like priming the body and the mind for the perfect day. So I've been doing that probably for a few months, and it's been really, really fun.
Do you follow the 49ers? Since you're in the Bay?
No, not exactly.
Well, I bring that up because I heard an interview recently with George Kittle. He's a tight end for the Niners. He's like the best of the league, if not. Yeah. Anyways, he did an interview, and that's what he said too. He's like, I visualize every single moment of that game. And he's known for like breaking all these tackles and going on these insane like video game style runs where no one can tackle him. And he says he visualizes that. He's like, I think of the craziest backyard shit in my head.
Yeah. And it's like the body and mind, they're so interconnected. Even in my practice, it's like the body's always talking to us, and we can actually begin healing our body through symbols. So it's really like all of this stuff I'm so interested in. The connection.
So is there a way that, what are you visualizing for your life right now? Since like you kind of manifested and created this reality for yourself, like what's next?
What I would love to do in the future is host wellness retreats where it would be a culmination of getting people out in nature, doing some sort of creative activity, teaching them about health and nutrition, moving their body. It's kind of like health in all aspects of body, mind, and spirit.
Please have poetry too.
Yes. And actually, like when I do, sometimes I just like visualize, and I'm really into like feeling the feeling before it happens. And David, I'm just going to say this on this podcast. Like I have a clear vision of me standing on stage and performing spoken word poetry, and I can like see the audience, and it's like the spotlights are on me, and I just feel like in my power. And it was really interesting because I've had this for a few years, and I was like in this like meditation, or whatever you would call it, I wasn't talking about nutrition. I was doing spoken word. And that's when I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, I really want to follow this thread.
Well, I think spoken word is just such a powerful way to get your message across, especially the way you perform. You're an incredible performer. And yeah, it's a beautiful way. I think the future is looking very bright for artists like you and me. Unfortunately, I think there's so many people that are lost and are tired of being lost. And it sounds like for you, it was when you found your expression with that challenge that kind of just really kicked things off.
And I've done it multiple years. So like the year after, I really wanted to explore watercoloring, and I wanted to explore being vulnerable and sharing my writing. So what I did for the next one after was paired journal entries, which I never thought I would, take out my morning pages. But I pulled segments that were universal, like segments on like life or love or fear. And then I paired that with a watercolor, and I shared that. So that got me really used to like being vulnerable and like sharing raw, real writing. So actually the book now is like sharing some of these stories. So it's almost like these 100-day projects were preparing me for this book. And then the food illustration one was another year I did of 100 days of food illustrations from like plants.
Can you like feel the momentum of all of these things carry you? Like, have you felt like a shift or no?
Well, during that time, I would take the picture of like the mushroom elephant, and I'd be like, this is really cute. And I just remember feeling like I made this and I love it and it brings me so much joy. Snapped a picture. I'm like, okay. And then I like recycled it. So it was very like in the moment, but I had so much fun through the process. I never at all thought during that time this is going to be a book one day, or this is going to be, I'm making this for my future, blah, blah, blah. But actually, like, I pulled so many of those food illustrations for like slide decks of like me presenting because it's fun. And I really am like allergic to PowerPoint with a lot of heavy text. So mine are just like, I like sketch them, or it's just like one picture and I tell a story. So it was actually that project that was used for so many other things. And I think that's the beauty of making something. Our job is to make. It's not our job to determine how it'll be used later. Like a poem. You'll write a poem and then you release it into the world.
You can't control it after that. You can't control how people receive it.
It's going to do what it's going to do. But your job was to make, and you're off the hook after that.
So you've worked on this book for a year, but you've really been working on it your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of how a lot of things work.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about the whole in-between concept, and like we're just always in the in-between. So would you say you're in between of your, is this, when you said you saw yourself on stage, is that kind of your next, is that what you're in between of right now? Is that kind of your next, is that what you're reaching for, or is that just what you see?
That's what I see. Actually, like in my vision board, it's like the Kanzaki method, which is like my company. And I have all these different like legs of the spoken word, my Kanzaki cards, the food for thought. And then above it says book, retreat, art, and speaking. So I know these are like my mountains of things that I want to be involved in, but I'm not sure exactly right now how that'll look. But I know if I have any of those parts within the whole, that's my purpose. So my job now of what I'm looking at is, will this get me closer to that mountain of sharing my contribution through my words, through coaching members in their health, through my cards or my art? And then I'm just going to keep walking in that direction and saying yes to the opportunities that allow me to express more of those. So we'll see.
I want to dissect that for a second, because you were listing off so many things that you want to pursue. And I think, like for me, before I even started pursuing anything, when I would listen to podcasts and hear people say these things they're doing, it would feel overwhelming. Like, what? I can't ever get to a point like that. And so I think it's really important to say, like, it all started from one like idea, you know? And so like when you did start exploring your creativity, like what was the first hope that came to you that was like that helped you to continue to go through with it?
I think it was just the pure joy of making something and being in that process of flow, and to have like a finished product after maybe 30 minutes of something that I made that I could look at and be like, this was me just kind of tapping in and seeing what came out. And that joy of making is addicting.
I agree. I didn't do 100 challenge, but I did a 50-day challenge. Yeah. And that's what had gotten me into poetry at first. And I was like, oh, well, this is getting fun. And sometimes you have like these really cool lines that you think are great and they make you feel good. And then you read them again a few months later and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? But it brings you to life, you know, one stroke, one line at a time. It brings you back to life slowly.
And I think, I'm sure there's athletes listening, but it's the same concept. I remember when I was training for Ironman, there was like this huge goal. We started 9 months preparation, and it was each day, like 30-minute swim, 3-mile run. It was never like you practice the Ironman day in and day out. And that process of like, you show up, even if you're a little sore, or even if you stayed out late the night before, it's the process of showing up and the compound interest of that, like, leads. And I feel like everyone has their Ironman moment, but what we don't talk about are the completely like unsexy moments of like waking up at 4:30 and like putting our swimsuit on, or, going for the run after a super long day, or taking out the notebook and sitting down when you feel like you have nothing to give in a poem. And that's, I think, what we talk about the book or like the final finished poem, but what is critical to this process is the daily making. and showing up even when we're not inspired, because those are the most important days.
Yeah. I took a workshop by Rudy Francisco. Are you familiar with him?
Yes. How amazing.
And the biggest takeaway I have from that is I was doing morning pages anyway, so I was doing a pretty decent job of writing every day anyway. But he said that he's like, there's a lot of people that wait to write until they're inspired, either when they're really up or really down. And he's like, and there's so much in between. He's like, there's so much in between that we miss if we only wait to write that. And so he made it a rule for himself to give himself at least a 10-minute quick write every day.
Yeah.
No matter what. And he gives himself permission for that to be trash. And he's like, I'll get gold sometimes, but it's like, but when I am ready to write a piece, I'll go through all these free writes and I'll always find something that I want to expand on. And so, so ever since then, I try to make it like, no, just write, even if I can get like a 3-line poem, whatever, just get something out today, right now.
I think people do not give themselves enough credit for how much richness in their actual life and stories they can pull from in order to write. They feel like, oh, I need to go to Italy and like experience the world in order to come back. But we have so much at our fingertips. And I think this Food for Thought project was a good example, because it was really me finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, like chopping broccoli crowns. I was like, oh, this kind of looks like a tree. And when we can learn to see within ourselves all the stories and all that richness that exists and have the courage to pull that out, that's when we've landed on a good place.
Oh, that's so, it's funny. That's the way, and a lot of those, how you were just saying, that's how I've looked at the world a lot for most of my life. And I think that's why I was always so anxious to have someone around me to talk, to have to share all these things I'm noticing. And so the second I put it to a pen, it was like game over. Like, fuck talking to people about it, because I want it for me now. What did you have a second poem? Actually, first, sorry.
Yeah.
I had one more question on your intuition. I'm sure I can ask anyway later, but what does listening to your intuition look like to you, or feel like?
Yeah, I was going to say what it feels like is a place of stillness, of pure love, of generosity, of knowingness. And it has a purity. And I'm still learning to listen to it. It can be very easy to kind of push away, or, the red, I'm like, oh, I see some red flags, and well, just go ahead. But the true intuition is a place of love and depth and generosity and contribution.
So how do you know when it's your intuition speaking to you instead of a sign that we can put, that I can give too much meaning? I'm asking for advice right now.
I think it's just tapping into how you feel, turning down the analytical mind and just saying, like, how does this feel in my body? I think our body always also talks to us too.
Oh, that's so funny that you say that. So I'm part of like a men's group, and we'll throw in some questions every now and then just to bounce off of other men. And I was like, guys, I could have swore I was just following my intuition with something 100%. I dove in, and I was and it backfired, and it life slapped me in the face, and I've never been so mad or bitter or angry. And I'm like, what the fuck? What do I do? I was just in a moment of feeling so lost and confused. And one of the guys, his first, it's so obvious in retrospect, but his first text was, well, here are some things I like to do. He's a pros and cons list. He's checking in, verifying that what you're feeling is true.
And also differentiating between ego and intuition.
Yeah, but it's, yeah. And so I was like, duh, of course you do those things. Sometimes it's just, I don't know. I guess I've just been getting so poetic that I get lost in the poetry. And sometimes it's not a fucking poem. It's just life.
Yeah. And I feel like as intuitive beings, it's I can walk in a room and see someone. I'm I know that we're going to be a good match in some way.
Yeah.
I just like will know, or I'll walk into a room and I could sense the energy of like, this just doesn't feel good. And I've gotten better at paying attention to those signs because I've seen how each of those scenarios has played out. So I think with time, you get to know your intuition as like a friend.
Oh, that's a nice way of saying friend. Do you have a poem that you wanted to share?
I do. So maybe this will be an encouragement for those who are kind of in that in-between space. And it's really about like learning to dance with a fear.
Jumping in, diving in.
Mm-hmm. So here we go. It takes courage to say yes. There comes a moment in your life when fear and dreams collide, and most will choose to play it safe to never risk their pride. But if you listen to that voice which calls from deep inside, you'll find that you can leap with faith across the great divide. It's never gonna go away, so learn to dance with fear. Walk into the great unknown and watch how doors appear. Be wary of the ones who tell you that it can't be done, the way you write or paint or draw or sing or act or run. Keep putting in the daily work when no one else can see, and soon you'll find that you'll become who you were meant to be. It takes courage to say yes. It takes courage to say yes. Say yes. It begins with that first step as you say yes to something new. Perhaps you don't know where to start or exactly what to do, but trust that life experience has prepared you for this time. Bravely ascend the path ahead and trust that you'll be fine.
Trust that you'll be fine.
Trust that you have everything in your chrysalis that will help you become that butterfly.
Trust that you'll be fine. I think that's such a powerful closing line.
Simple.
It's so underrated. It's simple, but like no one, I feel like it takes so much disappointment and so much pain and like confusion to like actually have faith in those words that like, and to trust that things will be okay.
And to live life with an attitude also of amusement. Like how fascinating that didn't work, because now I know how to iterate and make it different. How fascinating that maybe this piece of art wasn't for them, but maybe it'll be for them. But at least it's for me.
Yeah. I guess it's always for you first, and then from there it's who else it falls on. What was the last thing you said yes to?
Mm-hmm. I think saying yes to this podcast, which was a hell yes. Also, I have like a filter of like, it's either a no or like a hell yes. Because now it's like so many things vying for time. And I really have to discern, like, is this leading me closer to the mountain of the things I want to do and create and contribute? Or is this kind of a little bit of a distraction? And I've learned the beauty of not only is it time management, but it's energy management. And that's gold. Of like really curating the people that after I spend time in their presence, I leave and I feel like more fulfilled and more in awe and more inspired versus those who I leave their presence and I actually feel drained. So I've gotten really good at determining that and then making decisions to spend more time with those people who are contributing and life-giving. And it's like this synergy of creative magic. And then maybe just deliberately choosing to spend time with those people. Because as an introvert, it's like my energy is like very finite, and I'm aware now that it's my responsibility to be discerning with how I spend that.
Did you grow up being an introvert?
Yes.
What was that like? Because I grew up as an extrovert, and then I became introvert along the way.
I would say I'm an ambivert. Like if I love one-on-one times, or I love being on stage, but I recharge alone.
Okay,
And
so you can only take it in doses.
yeah. I'm
Um,
very discerning who I spend my time with.
Thank you
It's just
so
like
much for
if you
spending
make
time with
that
me.
list,
So you mentioned to me the other day that you have not had a TV for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wondering where she got the time for all of that creativity, she made a sacrifice. Did you watch TV a lot, or is it something you didn't want any?
I mean, I kind of did. And I realized like it was when I moved to my new place, I had so much to not only like unpack physically, but I had so much to just excavate internally. And having the solitude really provided me with the space to do that. And it's true. It's like if you take the letters in silent and you rearrange them, it's like listen. It's listen. And so
Silent is listen. Wow.
And so having that space really allowed me, this is when I actually started doing my morning pages. So like daily, just journaling, like seeing what's there and just like looking at it. It's when I started my blog. It was when I really had a chance to, because I was single. So it was the first time in a while when I was like, what do I like to do? Like, what am I interested in? And it was this really sacred space of rediscovering who I am and finding myself. And I realized by not having a TV, I'm in charge and I can curate what my inputs are. Right. And it was during that time I like unsubscribed from like beauty magazines. I was like, this is like coming in my mailbox and like, it just doesn't make me feel good about myself.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
like, I could curate that. I'm so intentional of like what I do decide to listen to. I started listening to a lot of podcasts, reading books, and that changed because it's kind of like this subconscious narrative from the things that we watch on the TV and commercials. It's subliminal programming. And I realized, oh, I can actually curate that and I could choose what I want to listen to, who I want my mentors and my teachers to be. And it's kind of like when you're in a house and your doorbell rings, you get to look and you get to see like, do I want to let this person in or this media or this programming in? And I realized then I could do that.
So you were just intentional across the board of what you're just allowing into your energy field, your sensory system. I've stopped watching TV a lot the last several years too, for a lot of the same reason. And I went to a friend's place recently and he had the news on and we were just watching the news at night. And I'm like, I honestly felt uncomfortable. I was like, I don't want to take this in right now. I don't want to spend my time or attention or energy with this news. I was like, do you always watch the news? And he's like, I just leave it on for background noise. I was like, but it's not background noise. You're here sitting and listening to you're taking this in, dude. Like, you know that, right? And I was like, honestly, dude, feel like we go outside. Like, I'm gonna be a dick about it, right? No, but like I want to enjoy your company and I can't do that right now with the news on. I'm sorry. And
it really allowed me to get in touch with my boredom. And I think the phone is great. It's given us so much, but it's also, I think about how much it's taken away from our creativity or like how many books haven't been written or art hasn't been made because people have just been on their phones. And even when I was driving today, I saw a person going for a jog and he was like at the stoplight. He checked his phone maybe like 3 times or whenever we're standing in line, it's like people check their phone. It's just a way to numb. And what's funny is like before we were going to record in the afternoon and the electricity went out, so I didn't have Wi-Fi, listening to how my neighbors were freaking out because they're like, my kid does not have like Wi-Fi. He can't be on like the screens. It was like major chaos. And it was really interesting to be like, we are so uncomfortable with silence and like just tuning in. Like, that's really interesting. Cause I was like, you could read a book, you could like do this or that. So I think the more just like flirting with boredom is healthy every once in a while.
We are literally the matrix. Like we were plugged in and the second we were unplugged, they were losing their shit.
Exactly.
And not just them, that is everywhere. And I think that is so true. Any inconvenience is just enough to set you off and show how fragile is our lifestyle, really.
And the beauty is during that time, because I didn't have distractions, that's when I wrote my poem. So it's like, that's an interesting observation, right?
When you said you were all those changes you were making to your life, what, maybe the TV is one of them, but what was one of the biggest things you added, or not biggest, but what addition made the most impact, and what removal made the most impact? So if someone is thinking of making some changes, what worked for you? What's a small thing someone can do to welcome some of this into their life?
So I would say the addition of morning pages was transformative in my own process.
Same.
During the pandemic, I found myself in my bed scrolling on my phone. And I'm like a health coach. So I like talk to people about like, oh, wind down routine, like sleep hygiene. And I was like, this is like nonsense, Julianne, like get it together. So I realized like I really needed to change that habit. So March of 20, or maybe it was April 2020, I did an experiment. I feel like all the things just need to start as experiments. Just try it. So I stopped having my phone near my bedstand and I charged it in the other room, and I sleep with earplugs. So I was like first wondering if I could wake up with an alarm, but I could hear it. And then I realized like that was not even enough friction, because I would then in the middle of the night, like get up, go to the other room, literally sit on the floor and scroll. And I was like, I need more friction. So I like literally unplugged my Wi-Fi router. So in order to log on, I would have to like go into the other room, plug in my Wi-Fi. And that whole process, like after a while, I'll just now put my phone in the other room, go to sleep. That has transformed my sleep.
Wow.
Which is the foundation for everything. And so that one habit, it was really hard in the beginning. And I realized sometimes I would wake up and I would roll over and I would just like, my hand would go. And I was like, this is like programmed in my body, like decades of like turning over and reaching for the phone. And so when that first happened, I was like, ha ha ha, like how fascinating. Like this has been hardwired in the way that I am so used to sleeping with this little device and like going on anytime I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's in the other room. And so it helps me sleep.
That's not the answer people wanted, Julie.
I know. But if you're going to go hardcore, do this.
I struggle. I'm at a point where I'm seriously struggling with my phone. I had gotten to a point to where I'd be okay with it for however long. Now I have to put it on the other side of the house when I'm working. So that way I just don't grab it right away. It's
maybe a good starting point is go for a walk and leave your phone. So it's like an hour where you just, we're so reachable. I remember back in the day when I would go to pick up a girlfriend. This is like when my mom would drive, like junior high. And I would call her. I'd be like, we're coming to get you on the landline, and like hang up. And then you just trust that they would be there. It's like, we're so now hyper connected that it gives us anxiety if we don't have Wi-Fi for an hour, right?
Well, like your neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe one starting point could be just go for a 30-minute walk or an hour walk and just see how you do without your phone and just see how that feels. And not listen to podcasts, but just like kind of get used to your own company and become friends with solitude. And it's going to be so uncomfortable at first because everyone's so used to numbing and like having the TV and having the phone. And just like ask. This is what I got from Deepak. He's like, Deepak Chopra. He's like, ask the question like, who am I? See what comes up. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I grateful for? What is my purpose? Like maybe just do a walk and like just ask those questions.
So
see what comes up.
Earlier you said that you do morning pages and meditate before your walk. Would your walk be as serene without that practice before? Without, obviously you'll enjoy the walk anyway, but anyways.
Yeah, I feel like my morning pages really is like skimming the surface of all the stuff I need to do, all the clutter that just like takes up my mind space. So if I didn't have that practice, I think I would go on my walk and think about like, I got to do my laundry today. I have to email that person back. And it wouldn't make any room for the creative ideas. So I look at morning pages as skimming off all the like analytical, like beta brain, like to-do lists, putting that in the paper so it has somewhere to land.
A productive brain.
A little home. Yeah. And then my my other creative side is like, thank God those guys are out. Like, now let's play. Like, let's see what's here, who's around. Like, let's see how we can like weave and fuse these things together. But that only happens when all this other stuff is like in my morning pages.
I've been going to the gym a little bit more regularly the last couple months, and I've noticed that I won't do morning pages every single day, but I noticed that when I meditate in the morning first, I'll have poems come to me at the gym. Like I write my poems I write my workouts in a journal. And lately, if you go through it, you'll see a bunch of poems in there littered throughout. One time, like I thought I just had an idea and I was going to write the idea, but it kept going. So I literally just sat down against the wall, just there writing my poem.
It's like your physical workout and like your spiritual workout.
Yes. That was one of the poems, something I was writing. I was like, something about how your limbs working together. Like you wouldn't be able to do a bench press if like your right arm wasn't there with your left arm, you know? And the takeaway I got is like, it's like our body's teaching us a lesson. We have to work together with others if we want to get anywhere. And so, and
And I feel like with the body and the health, like that's foundational. It's really hard for me to create if I'm not feeling rested, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not moving. So I feel as though like taking care of the actual house of our body, eating really nutrient dense foods, moving actually supports our creative process. They go hand in hand.
That's a lot of what you teach.
Yeah. So I love my job. It's like now I get to play with all the colors. I'm like, let's use yellow and maybe some red over here. It's so like the members I work with, I look at them as like a blank canvas, looking at motivation, how I can inspire all of the things that they have. And I'm like, let's paint this together. There's so many tools we can harness. And it's so fun because each person is so different.
What is your favorite part about your job and what you do in this life and career you've created for yourself?
My favorite part is it's kind of like knowing that they now have the tools to move forward, to inspire. It's like the ROI, the ripple of impact. So it's kind of like the starfish, like the guy walking on the beach and he throws the starfish in. And it's like for that starfish, it makes a huge difference. My favorite thing is when we reflect on the past 3 months and they set these goals. When we first start working together, like in 3 months, I would like to blah, blah, blah. And when we get to that 3-month mark and we review the goals they set in the beginning and they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm totally doing that. That shows the beauty of like the day to day and the compound interest. And especially like in hikes, when I hike with a client and we go up and we're standing on this high mountain and we look back and I'm like, look how far you come. It's literally that metaphor of with each step moving forward, sometimes like sliding down, but still moving up. You get to this point where you look back and you're like, wow, like I did that. And how cool. And now I can actually invite my other friends to come up here too, because I know the path.
Yeah.
That's actually why I take members into nature, because then later they can come back and because all of this, it's like, how can I teach something that will continue to contribute and continue to add value in their life that they can then teach others? Because when they feel healthy and they feel good and they feel inspired, that's when their art can come through. And it's like the metaphor of Michelangelo, like carving, chipping away, like David is inside. And I feel like people numb with food or substances. So really just allowing them to nourish themselves deeply with food. It's kind of like they're just shedding these layers in order to unveil that true essence of who they are. And when they see that, they're like, this is why I'm here and this is what I'm meant to contribute. And that is the best feeling.
Since you're the expert on this, I feel I'd be remiss to not ask you about how you know and believe for food to impact our moods or to impact our creativity. Like what kind of diet fuels your creativity?
I would say a diet that has more whole, nutrient-dense plant foods, less processed foods, less refined foods. So when your gut microbiome has the actual fiber from plants, these are the raw materials that allow these good gut microbes to make something called short-chain fatty acids. which help fuel and make serotonin, which help with all these other pathways of decreasing inflammation, of helping with mood. There's a lot of research showing the gut and brain axis and how nutrient dense, more plant, high fiber foods made from real foods really support stable mood, stable energy levels. So it starts with food. Actually, so when people come to me, we start with the food and starts with food. And it changes how they feel. So it changes like their cravings. It maybe changes their bloating. It changes their energy levels. So then they want to move. And then they start moving and they feel really good. And then maybe it fuses into, oh, I feel so good. I actually want to make this that I haven't done. So it starts with food, but it's this whole like cascade of other things, which it eventually gets them to their essence.
I listened to a podcast recently, and they were talking about how literally eating vegetables is you're consuming the sun. Like the sun bakes itself, and that's how you become light, like literally light, and you are a light.
Yeah, when they measure frequency of like the energetic frequency of food, the highest frequency vibrational wise is like fresh fruits and vegetables, and then the lowest is like processed foods like dead animal meat. So actually by changing what you're eating, you can actually physically raise your energetic vibration. And everything is energy. That's why it's like the earthing and the grounding will help with energy. So it's like, how can we get all these other energy inputs, the people we talk to, the things we read, the art we make, the food we eat, the way we move, the grounding and the earthing. Because when we have higher energy levels, that can't help but exude from us.
What in your coaching practice, what are some ways you see people getting in their own way? And I mean, I'll talk about myself here and be honest that when I had reached out to you for coaching for nutrition advice and getting my life on track and health on track. And at that point, I mean, I was unable to follow through with my goals for whatever reason. So like what kind of blocks are you noticing or patterns that you're noticing in people that maybe don't follow through with what they wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it's the programming. A lot of it is like all or nothing thinking. It could be the stories or the narratives of like deeply rooted of like, well, I failed at that. Like I'm just a failure. So part of it is naming what those stories are, what you're telling yourself. And then also coming up with a rebuttal of the truth. And our brain really works well in pairs. So it's like when you can identify like, oh, that's the story that I'm telling myself. And then you have that rebuttal ready, then we're like reprogramming. But a lot of people struggle with like all or nothing thinking, like when they go travel, it's like, I guess every time I travel, I drink a lot of alcohol and I eat all the food. So part of this is just changing the story of like, sure, like how would you want to rewrite this story for when you go on vacation? And what would that sound like? And then experiment with that, because that is we're just creating different neural pathways.
That was absolutely my problem. I would treat every day like it was a vacation. Every day kept me a holiday.
Yeah.
Oh man. But everything that you taught me is still very much in my head. And in a lot of ways it's really is that mental gap that is the hardest, and making a sustainable choice, not the all or nothing. And I think all or nothing is what I've struggled with all the time. It's like, you got to go all out. And I'm finally learning that it really is the small changes that make a more lasting impact. And especially when it carries in through your mood and how you interact and see the world.
And knowing that it's a choice, because when people say, oh, I'm not allowed to, or I can't have this, ooh, that just puts so much energy, and like all you want to do then is have the thing. So if you just change the energy around that and it's like, I choose to fuel this way, then you've kind of released it from like the prison of like, of just wanting it because you're not allowed to have it. Because human beings, whenever we have rules, we just want to butt up against them.
It's our nature.
Yeah.
What would I guess what's your take or opinion on on this through generational, or on how much is genetic or behavioral. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And just how that battle is, and how much, like, is it just your wits? Like, obviously anyone can do anything they want, but just kind of curious, what do you think about that?
So 20% is genetics, 80% is lifestyle.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
I know. Most people come and they're like, family history of high cholesterol. That's why I got to do the burger and fries. And I'm like, that's 20%. Like, you have so much agency. You have 80% is in your court, and you can change how you move, how you eat. And I think depending on the person, if they're like, oh, wow, that's really empowering. Because perhaps their whole life they've been told, oh, if you have family history of diabetes, guess you're going to be on insulin. But I've helped someone reverse his diabetes with a whole food plant-based diet. And he was like, this freed me, because I have my family members who are like, guess I'll just have more insulin when I have the cake. He's like, I'm 30 years old and I refuse to follow that mindset. And so he's created a whole new neural connection for his kids and his family to realize, like, oh, I can actually go down this pathway. Yeah.
Well, thank you for indulging those questions. Where, I think that would be a good place to end it. Where can people find you, and where can people learn more about what you're doing? I don't think we talked thoroughly about the Kanzaki method. So if you want to give an overview of that.
Sure. So I am a board certified health and wellness coach. So not only as a dietitian, where we can look at nutrition, but as a coach, I look at how you're moving, your sleep, your stress, and really how all of these different pieces fit together in your unique wellness plan. So I look at myself as a wellness architect. I work with you to really build out what this would ideally look like for you. And I offer 2 types of coaching. One is virtual, also coaching in nature. So I take people out on the trails. I live in the South Bay, so Bay Area trails, whether you want oceans or redwoods. And that's like my favorite thing, because coaching on the trails, we're getting metaphors from nature. A lot of the answers, like we talked about earlier, in art, a lot of it is just inside of us, and it just needs the safe space to come out. And same thing when I coach on the trails, the answers are really inside the person, and we're just kind of walking, and then they're putting together these different connections, and it's kind of coming out organically. So I offer coaching on trails and virtual. So people can find me at my website, juliannekanzaki.com. I have my art, and so a little shop where I have my handmade cards. I have my musings. I just created a now page of like things that I'm currently loving, like now, or excited about. So it's kind of like a snapshot of everything I'm obsessed about or making in real time.
Will you be pitching your book, or is that something you're going to self-publish? Is that something you're still deciding on?
I'm going to self-publish it, and I will decide where that will be sold later.
Yeah. Congratulations again. And I just want to acknowledge you for all the work you're doing, for taking that leap and quitting your job at the first time. I know we could probably have a whole episode on just that, since that was something I had recently gone through. You just throughout this episode, you really inspiring me on just being more intentional about that life I want. And since you put that out there earlier, I'll put this out there. Like, I see myself hosting poetry retreats in Mexico, wherever. But
got your first participant.
Thank you. That was inspiring. I was like, wow, how many other people would say they would be down to go? Like, maybe I don't have to wait for whatever. Like, why not just do this?
Choose yourself.
Choose yourself. I will.
There are no gatekeepers anymore. That's what's so beautiful. We don't have to wait for anyone to choose us to publish our book or choose us to create our YouTube channel. Like, we can do this.
We don't have to wait anymore to do this podcast.
We just make stuff and put it out in the world.
Oh man, thank you so much. This was worth the wait of all the times I've been talking about it. I'll have to have you back on again. And
I just want to thank you for your generosity and for the way that you show up And just seeing you as an artist develop your voice over the years. And I remember the first time you shared your poem, I was floored. I was just like, this man is so vulnerable and so real. And it was really refreshing because I was like, here's someone who's brave enough to share his truth, as uncomfortable as it could have been at the time. But that was like what made you remarkable, because when you reached out to me later, I was like, I remember your poem because it was so off the cuff real. And so I just want to thank you for showing up fully and continuing to listen to your intuition, and for staying curious, and for being so generous with your art.
Thank you so much.
It's making a difference.
I think that was the only time I ever shared that poem.
So good.
Oh man, I'll have to edit it out, bring it out. But thank you so much. This was amazing. And we'll have you again on soon. Have a good night.
Thank you, David.